Okay, so as someone who's scaled to 8 figures, as you can see by my multiple 10 million awards on the wall there, I'm going to walk you through like getting to 8 figures. It's not easy, but it is very simple. And really, all 8 figures is basically a collection of metrics. Because if you think about it, like 8 figures is 800K a month, and that's a number. And the cool thing about business is that numbers are made up of numbers, which are made up of numbers, which are made up of numbers. And what that means is that you can engineer 800K a month or 1 million a month by basically engineering all the little metrics that feed into it. And so if you imagine that this is kind of like a pyramid where at the top you have the amount of money you make or your profit, and then below that you have all these little systems that have all these little bricks that have to be in place and built up to get to the height of 800K a month. So really what I've done here is this is specifically for info entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, people selling like high ticket courses. I don't know how to get 8 figures with an agency or anything else because I haven't done that, but I know how to get 7 figures with an agency. It's kind of the same thing, but either way, like depending on your goal or your business model, this method of thinking will still help you and still apply. So what we're looking to do here is we're basically looking to find asymmetries. An asymmetry is something in the business that, if focused on, moves the needle the most. Okay, so different businesses and different founders have different asymmetries in different places. For me right now, for example, the asymmetry that I've been working on for the last really year is my sales conversion rate, and now my sales conversion rate is increasing. So my biggest asymmetry is ad spend, right? So where your focus should be and go depends on where the biggest problem is, and the biggest problem depends on the biggest constraint, the biggest bottleneck. So if you're wondering like what is an asymmetry, it's basically just working on something that releases a constraint or a bottleneck. Now, I won't bother reading this. You can read it if you want to, but this is basically a table of asymmetries. So what I've done here is I have mapped out the percentage conversion rate or cost per metric for 8 figures. And I know that these numbers make sense because if you have all these numbers, then you will achieve 8 figures if you have a typical high-ticket info business. And the reason I know that you will achieve 8 figures with these numbers is because I achieved 8 figures with these numbers, okay? This is not some theory-crafted teaching thing. I actually did this, right? So here's the thing. If you want to scale and you want to get to 8 figures, first of all, you need to have actually you need to get 7 figures first, right? But if you want to scale and you want to get to multi-7 figures, 7 figures, you need to have proof of concept, which means that you need to have signed 30 clients, you need to have booked hundreds of appointments. But I'm assuming you're watching this and you already know your business works, right? Which means that you already have like appointments coming in. Maybe you've got a rep or two, you've got results, you've got clients. It's a working business. So what I've done here is I've ranked these in order of importance, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically explain them. And you make a similar diagram for yourself. And so here's what we have. So you have refund rate. This is the most important metric, hands down, the most important metric for an info business. A lot of people think the most important metric for a business, for one of these coaching businesses, is cost per call or sales conversion rate or cash collected or average order value. Not true. The most important thing is refund rate. And the reason this is true is because it doesn't matter how good you are at marketing and it doesn't matter how good you are at sales. If your refund rate is high and clients aren't satisfied, then you're not going to survive for the long term. You might be able to print money for a year or two and make some money, but then you're going to destroy your reputation, your soul, and the livelihood of people that buy from you. So if your refund rate is anything higher than 5%, if it's even close to 5%, then your product sucks and you need to fix that, because we all talk about traffic, and getting traffic and appointments and deals, but traffic sent to a jam won't move. And what that means is that if you can get as many clients as you want, you can get as many deals as you want, as much cash as you want, but if all those people end up refunding, Stripe is going to shut you down. You're going to get bad reviews, Trustpilot, reputation. I'm watching this happen with a lot of people in my space at the moment. They just suck. So first thing. So what you need to do is you can, I'll put this document will actually be in the description. So what you need to do is you need to put your metric in here. What is your refund rate? Because God damn it, if this thing's like 15%, man, like It sucks. To put this into perspective, my refund rate is about 0.4%. Actually, I think it's lower than this now. But I've signed 3,000 clients into my program, and our refund rate is like, I don't know, it's like less than 1% now. So yeah, it's pretty good. Now, so what you do is you whack your refund rate in here, and then basically you either say if it's in KPI or not. So if you have like a 3% refund rate, then you're in KPI, okay? And all we're looking to do here for this exercise and this way of scaling to 8 figures is just make sure we're in KPI for everything. And if we are in KPI for everything, then all we have to do is increase volume of appointments, which is quite easy. So, dispute rate. Kind of like refund rate, which is basically just like, how many people are triggering credit card disputes on Stripe or on your payment processor. It's just another indication of client satisfaction. If this thing is if this thing's higher than like 1%, you're going to get cooked by Stripe anyway. But some payment processors that some of you guys use, like, they tolerate a little bit of a higher dispute rate. But it's the same thing. Like if your dispute rate's like 2-3% or higher, and you're pissing people off enough for them to feel the need to actively seek their credit card support team so they can stab you in the back with a dispute. I mean, come on. Our dispute rate is 0.5%, 4-5%. Our refund rate is like between 0.5 and 1%, but the dispute rate is 0.5%. Now, you're going to put your dispute rate in here. You can find this on Stripe. It'll be there. And, if it's high, then you won't have Stripe because Stripe will shut you down. Next thing is nightmare rate. So what you're noticing here is the first 3 metrics that are really important are measures of your customer satisfaction and success. And nightmare rate is basically what percentage of your clients are a nightmare. So if you sign, 100 clients, how many of them are going to be really annoying to deal with? And we measure this based on people that email support all the time and they get angry in the community and they're on coaching calls taking up 45 minutes and they're emailing you and they're shouting and what's your nightmare rate? This should be less than 10%. So you won't have a specific metric on this, but you can get some sort of gauge here. Now we actually talk about acquisition, which is probably something that you're interested in. So collection percentage rate. So this is basically if you sign people up on payment plans, what is the percentage collection rate of those payment plans? So say you charge 10 grand and you onboard someone on a 5-pay, so they pay over 5 months. Are you collecting more than 50% of the revenue that the client was contractually obliged to pay? If you're not, then this is another indication that your product sucks, because we sell 5-pays, 4-pays, and our collection rate is 70% or 65%, and that's good. And the reason that people have crappy collection rates, again, is because their product sucks. Because if someone pays 2 grand and they're supposed to pay another 8, and they come in and after 2 weeks they think, God damn, this thing sucks. This is not worth. I don't want to continue paying to have access to this piece of crap. Then it sucks. So this is kind of the point. Is all of these metrics here, the first 4 most important metrics, and they are ranked in order of importance, are all about your product, because people don't think about the product. The single core foundation of 8 figures or multi 8 figures, the single keystone, the bottom layer of the pyramid of scale is your product. Because you can get to 8 figures with a crap product, but you won't last long. This happened to Taylor Welch, right? Traffic and Funnels. The dude, I never bought any of his products. I've just heard rumors, but from what I understand, he got sued or attacked by the Financial Trade Conduct Authority or some government body that that had to interject with him because he was scamming people because his product sucks so much, or something like that. These guys, a lot of these guys, these gurus, they get sued that their products are that bad that they get to 8 figures, they get to multi 8 figures, and then the government comes after them because they've scammed so many people. So I don't actually know Taylor Welch personally. I don't know his products, but to get investigated by a financial conduct authority or the FTC or something, you've got to do something pretty damn bad, right? You've got to rip a few people off, or at least from my understanding. Maybe he is a darling angel. I don't know, but you get my point. Okay. Now the next thing is offer validity. So you put your metrics in here. If you're in KPI, if you're out of KPI here, then I'm sorry, but you just have a lot of work to do on your product. And you do not deserve to scale until you can deliver a product or a service that actually gets the job done and solves the problem and makes people happy enough so that they don't stop paying, so that they actually don't become a nightmare and they don't dispute or refund, right? Offer validity. So you can only really get to 8 figures if you've booked like hundreds of appointments already. So there's no point in trying to go from like, 20K a month to like $1 million a month if you haven't even booked enough appointments. So just have you actually booked like 100 or a couple hundred appointments? Because if you have, what this indicates is that your offer or the offer, and I'm not talking, by the way, about referrals, I'm talking about cold outbound appointments. Have you used your offer and your messaging to book hundreds of them, or at least 120? Because if you haven't, then if it's all been through referrals or inbound, then you don't know that your offer is actually good. And the only way that you're going to scale to 8 figures is cold traffic, because not enough people know you exist, probably, to get you to 8 figures, right? So you need to validate that your offer and your messaging works on a cold audience. A lot of people, they get to 7 figures with inbound, with like referrals and stuff, and then they're like, yeah, I'm going to scale to 8 figures, and then like they try and get the ads thing to work or the email or the setting team thing to work, and it doesn't because they haven't validated the offer. So have you validated your offer? I'm going to put this cold. Now, in fact, we will put this on this side. Cool. Profit margin. So this is a huge one. Honestly, this should be 75%. Now it depends on where you're at, right? So if you're making like 500-600K a month, 700K a month, then we can get away with a cheeky 60% margin. But honestly, my margins at 800K a month are 50%, right? So put in perspective, last month I made like 850, 900 grand, and we kept 420 or something, or like something like 450. But we are on a 50% margin at 8 figures. So really, I put 50% here to be kind. This should be 80%. If you can't figure out how to get 70%, 75%, 80% margins, it's 7 or multi-7 figures, then all that's going to happen is you're going to scale some horrific inefficiencies to 8 figures. Like, we got mastermind clients who are like at like 200K, 300K a month. And there's one guy in our mastermind who's doing 300K a month, but he's on like a 15% profit margin, like 15. And I was like, he was like, I want to get to like $1 million a month. I was like, dude, you've got way more leverage in just figuring out how to become more efficient. The dude had like 70 team members, and he has like no organic, and like his product is like a third of the price of what it should be, and he's got no collection rate. And I was like, dude, like, if you scale to 8 figures, you're going to probably bring your profit margins down to like 5%. And then also you're going to make more money just by increasing your profit margin by like double than scaling. Because I said to him, I was like, you can double everything, or you can just increase your profit margin by double. It's way easier to do the profit margin thing. So if your margin is I've put here sub 50%, but honestly in hindsight, it should be like 60, 70 at least, because you're going to lose a lot of profit efficiency as you try to scale, okay? Which can be fine. You can always bring it back afterwards, but you need to be doing like, 7 or 7 figures at least a 60, 70%, 80% margin before you even think about scaling. So AOV of price. Now, this is pretty straightforward. How much cash do you collect upfront on new deals? So let's say that you charge $15,000, and every deal that you close on average gives you $5,000 up front. Now you've got a 33% AOV. This should be at least 25%. Really, it should be at least 50%. Ours is 50%, to put in perspective. So we collect an average of like 45, 50, 55% AOV. 25% is doable, but the thing is you need to have a bloody expensive program. Like if you're only charging like $5,000 and you're collecting 25% up front, which means that you're collecting $1,250 up front, you're not going to liquidate your ad spend. You're going to lose money. And you're going to have to pay your sales reps on that. It's not a pretty time for anyone, right? So your AOV needs to be at least you need to be collecting at least like 3-4K a sale, or at least 2K a sale. But even that, you're cutting it very, very fine. You better have a damn good back end and a bloody good collection rate. Otherwise, you're in deep trouble. Ads cost per strategy session. So if you're running ads, and you might not be running ads at the moment, but when you run ads, the KPI that I have for my cost per call is $200. So I'm running YouTube ads or Facebook ads or whatever, like I need to be paying $200 or less per appointment. Now, if I paid $250, would it be the end of the world? No. But these numbers here that you're looking at on the screen have been engineered to help you achieve a 40%, 50% margin at 8 figures. And the most expensive thing for a high ticket info business is ads. And the only thing we run ads for is to get calls. And so the cheaper the call, the more profitable you're going to be. So my cost per strategy session is literally bang on like $199 for last year. I spent like, what do we spend? A couple mil on ads, easy. And like, our average cost per call was like $200. If you're doing outbound, so if you're doing outbound ABR, like let's say you're doing cold email, you've got setters, then your process needs to be converting at least 2.5% or more. So, if you've got a setting team or you're doing cold email, like you want to scale through the outbound systems, there needs to be at least 2.5%. If it's not, like it's just not worth scaling because it's just going to cost too much and there's not enough volume in the market and stuff like that. Now, in terms of ads, if you're running them, your day one ROAS should be 1.5x and your LTV ROAS should be at least 3x. Now, not necessarily, right? My LTV is sometimes like 2.5x, but that is also including paying my sales reps. But generally speaking, like, you want your lifetime value to get towards that 3x mark on ads ROAS, okay? Now, show rate, big one, 50%, right? So if let's say that you're doing a mil a year and you want to get to a mil a month and your show rate right now is like 30%, well, sorry, mate, you need to fix that because all that's going to happen is you scale and literally have to 10x the amount of appointments you get. You're probably going to reduce your show rate even more because you've got colder traffic, you've got more people to reach out to, et cetera, et cetera. So show rate should be at least 50%. Ours is 60%, sometimes 65%. So, that's kind of I know everyone in this space who's at 8 and multi-8 figures basically, and we all have a 60% show rate. Like, the 65%, 66% is really as good as it gets. It's just industry standard. Like, I've never found anyone that's figured out how to get it anywhere beyond that. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but if you have a 50% show rate, that's good enough to scale. But we want to try and get it to 60 if you can, because the difference between a 60% show rate and a 50% show rate at scale is like a 15% increase in like margin, or like a 10% increase in margin. It's bloody insane how much this thing has an impact. Now, the last thing is sales conversion rates. So you need to have a 25% sales conversion rate minimum. And I say this because like your sales reps are going to convert probably half as bad as you. So before I hired my first sales reps, my sales conversion rate in my company was like 40%, 45%. I was like a demon on the phone, right? What that meant is when I hired reps, I could train them. And generally speaking, all of your reps are going to be half as good as you, as a rule of thumb. So the scaling, the minimum KPI for scaling a sales team profitably, efficiently at 8 figures, whilst keeping 40 to 50% of the money as profit, is 15%. A 15% sales conversion rate for a sales rep is, especially at scale, pretty damn good. Ours is now like 18%. I'm trying to get it to like 20%. I think we'll probably be there in the next couple of months. But I found that you can scale a sales team with a 15% conversion rate. This is only though if you have these other metrics in place, right? Because if you only have like a 20% show rate, then the sales conversion rate never matters. And if your average order value is terrible and your collection rate's terrible, then it doesn't matter what you close because you're not going to make any money anyway, right? So if you want to know how to find these metrics, you can scroll down and, if you're worried about like where to, locate specific things so you can put them in, then you can take a look here and that's fine. But once you, here's the thing. Scale, it happens in 2 stages. Stage 1 is proof of concept. Stage 2 is volume. This exercise here is designed to help you find proof of concept. So basically, if you have all of these metrics in KPI, then the only thing that you have to do to grow your business is increase the volume of traffic and appointments. That is it. There's nothing else that you need to do. Because think about it. If you've got a couple of sales reps converting at 15%, and you've got a show rate of 55%, and your ads are, all that's going to happen, all that happens when you scale is you increase what you already have. Scale is basically just an increase in size, and it's fractal, which means that what you have now will just be double of what you have next if you scale by double. Now, it's obviously not completely linear because, you get to a point of diminishing returns, your ads frequency spikes, your reps burn out, your systems can fail, your support team might not be able to handle the clients, but those are all problems that can be pretty easily solved. So I've got an itchy nose, I've got like hay fever or something. I'm not picking my nose, I promise, I'm just like, I'm rubbing it. But scale is just an increase in size, and all you need to do to scale is get these metrics. If you have these metrics in KPI, then all you have to do is spend like 200 grand a month on ads, and you'll be at 700, 800 grand a month. And I know because it's literally what I've done. That's it. It is literally this simple. It's just getting and then like you maybe need to spend the next like 6 to 9 to 12 months getting all these things in KPI. But the second that these things are in KPI and you've got systems that can support these numbers, you have permission to just go absolutely ballistic with ads. And this is what I'm doing now. I've kind of consolidated at 8 figures for about 9 months now. We've kind of flatlined and plateaued to basically improve our sales rep conversion rate efficiency and our show rate efficiency and our AOV. Like these things were in KPI and they got us to like 800K a month, 900K a month, but like I want to get to 2 mil a month, right? And so what I've had to do for the last really 9 months is build systems that, bring the rep conversion rate to like 20% and bring the show rate to 66% and bring the LTV up and, and bring the cost per call down as much as I can and bring the AOV up to like 50%. Because we started it, I was at 8 figures with a 25% AOV, but now I've like got this to 50%. But the volume hasn't increased, but when we increase the volume, we'll double the business. That makes sense. So, and it's also like these have never been a problem for us because our product is just insane, but our collection rate's gone up and our cash collection. So, it's like when you want to scale, you first lay the foundations for scale by improving your metrics, and then you just increase volume. Because for me now, getting from $1 million a month to $2 million a month is just about spending double on ads and having double the sales team. Yes, it's going to be chaos. Yes, things are going to break. Yes, I might make less profit in the short term, but in theory, it's very simple. It's very straightforward. That's basically how I did it. If you are wanting to do this and you want a faster way to do it, then there's a couple of links in the description you can check out. We've got a program for client acquisition to systemize basically all of this, but then we also have a mastermind for people already making 30K a month that want to get to 8 figures. And we're doing it for about like 9 months now, and we've taken like a ton of people from like multi-6, 7 figures to like high 7, nearly 8 figures. So yeah, we're pretty good at it, and it works. So yeah, see ya.